Lolo's story begins in tragedy, as one of countless animals born into a life of exploitation. She was found abandoned, her frail body a shadow of what a healthy cat should be. Her condition was so critical that the rescuers who found her rushed her to a veterinary hospital, hoping to save her life. But Lolo wasn't just another stray cat. According to the veterinarians who examined her, she'd been used for trade, bred repeatedly and callously to produce kittens. Her existence was reduced to a commodity, with no regard for her well-being. The trauma of this cruel exploitation was evident in every aspect of her fragile form. When Lolo arrived at the hospital, it was clear that her health had been severely neglected. Her fur was completely gone, likely because of the abuse she had endured. She appeared weak and malnourished, her movements slow and painful. The veterinary team worked quickly to assess her condition. They knew time was of the essence. Lolo was placed in a warm, quiet space to ease her stress while the vets began their examinations. A thorough examination revealed the extent of Lolo's suffering. She was diagnosed with a severe fungal infection, which had likely caused the loss of her fur. The infection had spread across her body, leaving her skin irritated, sore, and vulnerable to further complications. Blood tests were conducted to check for other underlying issues. Lolo's immune system was weak, making her more susceptible to infections and illnesses. An X-ray scan was also performed to rule out any internal injuries or conditions that might not have been immediately visible. The results painted a grim picture. Lolo's body had been pushed to its limits, worn down by years of neglect and exploitation. Yet, despite her pain, there was a spark of resilience in her eyes, a silent plea for help. The veterinary team spared no effort in their attempt to save Lolo. She was placed on a treatment plan to address her fungal infection, which included antifungal medications and soothing topical treatments for her raw skin. They provided her with nutritional support to strengthen her weakened body and started her on fluids to combat dehydration. Despite their best efforts, Lolo's condition remained critical. Her body had endured too much, and her immune system struggled to fight back. The veterinarians monitored her around the clock, hoping for even the slightest sign of improvement. Lolo fought bravely, but her little body couldn't withstand the years of damage inflicted upon her. Despite the love, care, and medical attention she received, Lolo passed away, leaving behind a wave of heartbreak for those who had tried so hard to save her. Her death was a devastating reminder of the consequences of animal exploitation and neglect. Lolo's life had been one of suffering, and though she found kindness in her final days, it was too late to undo the harm that had been done. Lolo's story sheds light on a dark and often hidden side of animal welfare, the exploitation of animals for trade. Cats like Lolo are forced to endure endless cycles of breeding, with no regard for their health or well-being. They are treated as commodities, their value measured solely by the kittens they produce. This cruel practice takes a tremendous toll on the health of mother cats. They are often malnourished, overbred, and deprived of medical care, leading to severe health problems like the ones Lolo faced. When they are no longer deemed useful, they are discarded like trash, left to fend for themselves or die from neglect. Lolo's story is heartbreaking, but it is also a call to action. Her life, though short and filled with pain, can serve as a powerful reminder of the need to advocate for animals like her. Lolo's life was short and filled with hardship, but her story will not be forgotten. She serves as a symbol of resilience, a reminder of the cruelty that exists, and a call to create a better world for animals. Though she didn't make it till the end, Lolo experienced compassion and care in her final days. She felt the gentle hands of veterinarians tending to her wounds, the warmth of a safe space, and the love of those who fought tirelessly for her. In those moments, she was not a commodity but a living being deserving of dignity and kindness. Lolo's story has ended, but her legacy lives on in the hearts of those who cared for her and in the actions of those inspired by her journey. Let her life remind us of the importance of compassion, responsibility, and advocacy for the voiceless. In the meantime, we have another story that's worth sharing about a small kitten who was rescued on the street. Her name was Mickey. When Mickey was rescued, it was clear that she was not well. Her thin frame and defeated posture hinted at the hardship she had endured. However, her situation turned out to be far worse than it seemed. A visit to the veterinarian revealed a devastating diagnosis. Mickey was suffering from a hiatal hernia. A hiatal hernia is a medical condition where a portion of the stomach pushes up through the diaphragm into the chest cavity. This abnormality can cause severe discomfort, digestive issues, and breathing difficulties. In Mickey's case, the problem didn't stop there. The injury from the kick had caused further complications. Her intestines were no longer in their proper place, making her condition life-threatening. The veterinarian determined that the injury was recent, meaning Mickey had been living in pain and discomfort for days before being rescued. Her survival depended on immediate, complicated surgery to repair the damage. Mickey's surgery was nothing short of miraculous. The veterinary team worked tirelessly to repair her diaphragm and reposition her intestines. It was a delicate and lengthy procedure, but Mickey's will to live inspired everyone involved. The surgery was a success, but her journey to recovery was just beginning. Post-surgery, Mickey faced many challenges. She needed to rest and heal, with close monitoring to ensure her body adjusted to the repairs. Every day brought a mix of hope and worry as her rescuers watched over her, ensuring she ate small, gentle meals and avoided any strain on her fragile body. Despite her ordeal, Mickey's spirit began to shine through. She started to show signs of improvement. Her appetite returned, and her eyes sparkled with a glimmer of hope. Today, Mickey is on the road to recovery. Her resilience and courage have touched the hearts of everyone who has heard her story. She's no longer just a stray cat struggling to survive. She's a symbol of hope and a reminder of the importance of compassion. Mickey's journey reminds us all of the power of kindness and the responsibility we have to protect the voiceless. No animal should suffer because of human cruelty, and every life is worth saving. Also, let's honour Lolo by ensuring that no other animal has to endure what she went through. Together, we can create a world where every cat, dog, and animal is valued, protected, and loved. Thank you for watching today's story. If her journey has touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to hear more stories like hers. Together, we can raise awareness and make a difference for animals in need.